Kids who have advanced language skills may be ready to start having conversations with others. But how do we teach those conversation skills to our learners?
Hi, I'm Shira.
And I'm Shayna.
We're behavior analysts that create weekly content about how to teach kids with autism so that they make real progress. And we create shareable resources to make your job just a little easier. Today's topic is all about conversation skills. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new video releases.
So, what is conversation? Okay, first of all, I have to say a shout out to my mother. I love you, Mom, but conversation with my mother is sometimes so one-sided or back and forth. Like I said, I love her to death, but it's constantly question, answer, question, answer. That grilling with questions sometimes. What are you doing? Where are you going? What's this? Do you like this? Is this happening? Is this right? Question, comment, question, comment. And it just doesn't seem natural. And I get so stressed out sometimes after these question, comment conversations that I'm like, wow, right? But that's what we do with our kids. When we're teaching our students, what do? We hound our kids with questions, WH questions, function questions, feature questions, and it's us questioning and them answering. And gosh, that's got to be a lot.
Yeah, so sometimes we mistakenly teach our kids that conversation means that you answer a question. And the same way it's not fun for us to be on the other side of all those questions, it's not fun for our kids. And if we want them to benefit from conversation, meaning like they're going to start to enjoy it and it helps them develop relationships, then we have to think about what really is conversation. It's not just a question answer session. It's a mutual sharing of information. And if you think about your own conversations and the ones that you probably enjoy the most, there's probably very little questions. It's a lot of commenting. Wow, that sounds exciting. Or I wonder how that made you feel. Or I did something cool on the weekend. And a lot of it is kind of a back and forth reciprocal sharing of information. And that's where we want to start with our learners.
So when we start teaching a conversation program with our learners, the first conversation I typically start with is just commenting back and forth. So for instance, if I said, my name is Shayna, would the learner be able to say,
my name is Shira,
right? Sometimes when I say my name is Shayna, we often get back, my name is Shayna. Or if I said, I'm wearing an orange shirt, they might say, I'm wearing an orange shirt. So they're just echoing after me. They're copying me. And we really need to teach them to reciprocate, but say something different than us.
Or sometimes they may only respond to what's your name. And that's not really how peers would interact. They would just introduce themselves. So we're teaching them that you don't only answer what your name is when asked specifically what's your name, but it's an appropriate response to someone else sharing some information about them.
So usually the way we start with comment would be something like an I have program whereby, we have something in our hands and the learner has something tangible in their hands. And I can say, I have, water, or I have a phone, or whatever I have in my hands. And the learner would say what they have in their hands. And if they say what I have, then I can physically point it out to them. And I can say, no, like, look, that's me. What do you have? And then we would try it again until they understand that, oh, it's a back and forth thing. Okay, so you have this, you have this. Okay, let's make those comments. And then from there, we can extend it to things maybe that they see or that they're wearing. So, I see this and you see that if we're reading a book and we're looking at different pages. Or, I'm wearing an orange shirt and, the learner is wearing a black shirt. So going back and forth that way, and then getting into those social questions. But instead of social questions, it's the social comments, right? Like, I'm 21 years old, for real, I promise. And my name is Shayna, those types of questions, and seeing if they can comment back.
Right. Often we get learners, or we see learners who learn language a little bit rotely, or will sometimes repeat the question or have, the echoic. And so what we're trying to do here is teach that reciprocity, and that's going to go into social language. But the first thing for us to teach them is that you say something, I say something, and those things should be different. So with the I have, I see program, it's, I have a cup and I have a sock. Those are very different. And then we're going to talk about what different things you might see in a book. I see a cow, I see a dog, so that they're learning to say something different. And that's a really important skill in conversation, is that, taking turns and talking about things that are related, but not the same thing.
And then you can get into a few different things with that. So once learners are commenting back and forth like that, you can do something like I call an I have an extension or an I see extension, whereby, if you both have two different objects or you both are looking at two different pictures, I can say, I see a cow, and Shira can say, I see a sheep. And then I can say, my cow is brown, and she can say, my sheep is white. And then, we can go back and forth. I can say, well, my cow says moo, and she says, my sheep is white. So it's saying something different, but yet something related. And it's just extending that conversation into a few different exchanges, but around a similar topic. Likewise, if you were doing something about favorites, I could say something like, my favorite ice cream is, gosh, what is my favorite ice cream these days? My favorite ice cream is chocolate, and she can say,
my favorite ice cream is chocolate, though.
Oh, okay. So my favorite ice cream is really Moose Tracks, but nobody knows what Moose Tracks is. So, we can say things like that, right? So then, the next program would be something like a do you like program. And we actually have some great visuals on this. And if you click in and around this link, you can get a free download for a do you like visual. And the do you like visual is really just saying, the learner can say, do you like ice cream? Or do you like dogs? Do you like cars, for instance? And the learner might say yes or no. And if they say yes, then you can get into that comment back and forth. Just as an aside on that, I used to just teach the comment back and forth, right? Like, I like Hondas. And the next person says, well, I like Acuras. But then you've got, these obscure subjects, like sometimes cars, that a 2-year-old is telling about Hondas and Acuras, and the next 2-year-old is looking at them like, what? So sometimes kids do have to preface the conversation by saying, well, actually, do you like cars in general, or do you like this topic? So, you start out with like do you like ice cream? Yeah. Well, what's your favorite ice cream? Or, what's your favorite ice cream? And she says, my favorite ice cream is chocolate. And I say, well, my favorite ice cream is Moose Tracks. I'm going to be confident. I'm just going to own it. My favorite ice cream is Moose Tracks.
And then the other thing is that so often we get questions about people seeing conversation as a social skill, which it is. It's a social skill, and they want to know how to teach it with peers. It's really hard to start teaching these conversation skills with peers. So very often we'll start teaching it with adults, and we'll get some traction with them doing comment, and then introduce it with peers. So it doesn't have to start that way, because that's a little bit harder for kids. Like Shana was saying, talking about getting them to ask a question, this is a great skill, because now it's the opposite. Sometimes we get so stuck in them responding to questions. Now we want to teach them to be the ones to ask a question. So we can teach them to ask, do you like movies? Do you like TV shows? Do you like superheroes? Because that's really appropriate. That's a great way to start a conversation with another kid, as opposed to waiting to be asked those kind of questions. So the next place that we might take a comment program is into a comment question program. So being the one to not respond to a question, but to think to ask a question. So if I said something like, I did something cool on the weekend,
what did you do?
That would be a normal social reaction, asking a follow-up question about that comment. So then we want to start getting into helping our kids ask questions about something that someone else said.
So, with things like this, we can try and do it in the natural environment and set up these situations, but it doesn't always work, because, our learners may not take the bait, right? I might say, I did something really cool on the weekend, and they look at me and go, I don't care, Shana. I really don't care.
Right. They might not. They really might not care what you did on the weekend.
But at other times they may care, but they just might not have the language to be able to ask. So sometimes we do have to teach this in a more rote format at first. And, we can write a whole bunch of these big comments on cue cards. And those cue cards are really for our instructors and not for the students. But it would, cue our instructors to be able to ask specific questions and then really have that follow-up. Okay, so when I say this, and sometimes I've actually, sat with a learner and said, okay, we're going to play this game. When I say this, you ask me a question. Okay, so I'm going to make a comment. You're going to ask a question. Here's some things you can say. And if they can read, I might even, write out a few different questions that they could ask. But otherwise it would be, I ask a question or I make a comment and you ask a question.
Yeah, and it's great for it to be natural, but it doesn't have to start out naturally. It's okay to teach things a little bit more scripted. We actually have a blog about how to teach conversation by using scripts. So go check that out. We'll link to it here. And we also have some really great examples with data sheets and templates and how-to videos on all of these programs on the comment, and comment question in our membership. So if you are already a member, then go check that out in our social skills section. And if you're not, then you should be.
We have some good YouTube videos too. So just, Google how to ABA and conversation. But the YouTube videos, we've got, like Shira mentioned, is can conversation be scripted? We also have one that's, how to teach conversation skills as well. So check that out too.
And then the other thing we like to teach is that any of these skills, before expecting them to be in the natural environment or with peers, is get the kids fluent. We'll sometimes put it to fluency and we'll set a timer. We have a blog post on teaching this with precision teaching. And we want these social skills and these conversation skills to come naturally. So they should be as fluent as possible.
For more information on conversation skills, click the link in and around this video or in the description to claim your free Do You Like What's Your Favorite Visual? We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos, and leave a like and comment below if you have further questions.